Good day. I got cans of Bissell Brothers beer for the first time in a while. And this one is Lux. Their Mosaic Rye Pale Ale, 5.1% alcohol. And it features pale malt and malted rye and then caramel 60, but not much of either of those because it's a pretty pale beer. It's not super bitter, and they use Mosaic and Centennial hops, which is kind of an interesting combo because they're pretty different hops. I do know that A Year with Dr. Nandu from Aeronaut, the local Somerville beer, is brewed with the same hops, and I like that one quite a bit. But that's bigger IPA. This one was canned, I think, on Thursday, so 4 days ago, I believe. And it's one that I've had many times before, mostly on draft though, when I've been at Bissell Brothers or in the Portland area. And yeah, I actually had a little bit of this canning batch right the day that I bought it and thought it was very good. The other beers I had at Bissell Brothers had that, that burn in the throat that you get from a lot of New England IPAs. This one seemed to be nicer because they don't call it an IPA, they call it just a pale ale. So doesn't have a crazy big amount of bitterness in it, but it is very hazy. I guess there's a little bit of color to it. It's not as pale as a lot of any IPAs. It's got some color in there, but I really don't notice caramel malt when I drink it though. And the head is really nice. The Bissell Brothers canning consistency seems to always be good. They always have really nice head retention and everything, and good carbonation. And yeah, this is big on the Mosaic. They kind of mostly call it like a Mosaic Rye Pale Ale. And the peachiness is really big, and the rye just helps to bring out a little bit of extra spiciness. But yeah, it smells like canned peaches, fresh peaches, grilled peaches, peach rings. But it doesn't have too much of that peach ring plasticky thing that I noticed from Mosaic hops. Mosaic used to be like my favorite hop, but now I'm noticing, especially in combination with certain kinds of really expressive New England IPA style yeasts, that there's this plasticky, sort of burnt plastic thing that I kind of notice on the edges with Mosaic hops and these beers, but this one doesn't really have that. Just super peachy, pineapple-y too. And there's some kind of sweet malt thing happening deep back in there, but doesn't smell actually like barley or something like that. Yeah, that smells really nice. And very fruity. I'm not getting much dank quality at all, at this point at least. I mean, maybe there's some very light scallion, but it's not dank, buddy, garlicky, stemmy or anything like that. Nice full feel for 5.1% alcohol. Almost creamy, not quite. It finishes with just a little bit of spiciness, and maybe I'm noticing a very light sweet rye bread flavor, citrusy. It's like the sweet light rye breads of Scandinavia that sometimes they have orange peel added to them. That's the kind of very soft breadiness that I get from this beer. But I got, yeah, substantial body for this this strength, and it finishes pretty darn mild bitterness there. A little bit sweet, but it's not syrupy in the finish. It's still mostly dry on the palate, and very gulpable, but it's not crazy refreshing. It's still got some sweet body to it, but that makes it a more of an intense, flavorful experience. So it's not, it doesn't make really sense for them to call it a session IPA, I guess. I think they call their Diavoletto, they're like 2-point-something% beer session IPA, and that one's really cool. That one's good too. But I think all their other like IPAs are just substance. Their flagship one that's 6.6, and then they have ones that are stronger than that. This has very, very little burn in the back of the throat. I've gulped a bunch of this. It's really crushable, I guess you could say. But I like to sit with it and savor it. And this isn't something that I can drink like water and be super refreshed by. It's not that sort of thing. It's got that juicy body, even though it's down low in alcohol. I think it's better than Trillium Bird series, even though it's very comparable, because in the Trillium Bird series they often do use interesting other grains and experimentally mixtures of hops they don't really do. And that's kind of what this one is. I don't know if Trillium's ever done Mosaic and Centennial in the beer. They definitely use rye a lot in their beers, but I don't think they use malted rye. This just adds to like the richness, I think, instead of being super spicy and cutting on the edges. It's just adds to a nice rich malty body. Yeah, and there's very little burn at all. It really stands out from the other Bissell beers, I feel, because those ones are all like pretty dank, pretty burn-inducing in the back of the throat, and have lots of green flavors and things. This one is mostly just fruity and lightly spicy, and very pleasant to drink. I don't see how anyone could not like this beer unless they really have something against Mosaic hops or they don't like peach flavors, because it's not very bitter at all. I don't know if they list their IBUs or anything, but it's very nice beer. I'll give it a 4.5. It's probably my favorite Mosaic hop beer currently, or Mosaic forward beer right now. The Centennial doesn't really add much. Like, there's just a little bit of some citrus that cuts through. It doesn't quite come out into pine. Maybe there's a really clean resinous quality in there, but I don't know if I'd be able to pick out Centennial. Definitely, if you gave me this beer and didn't know what it was, I'm sure I could pick out Mosaic, but Centennial must be a really small amount, maybe mostly bittering hops, because they don't say what they use for the bittering hops or the dry hops, but I'm sure it's mostly Mosaic. Yeah, that's just a flawless beer. Yeah, I do 90 bags of popcorn. It's great. So snag it up. It's one of the Bissell Brothers beers that people don't line up for crazy, amounts of time early in the mornings for. It's kind of weird. There was a giant festival right next door to Bissell Brothers this weekend, and they didn't even sell like